knowing what is sampling and sampling and quantitative research, let's to move on to sampling and qualitative research. In qualitative research, we have 7 types of research, and each type has a recommended sample size. For example, ethnography, it has approximately 30 to 50 interviews. Case studies can be only one case or can be multiple cases. Phenomenology has approximately 6 participants. Grounded theory, on the other hand, has approximately 30 to 50 interviews. Participant inquiry, on the other hand, has small working team, while clinical research has focus in-depth one client or can include more. Lastly, focus group has 6 to 9 people per group, and each group has a major audience. Now let's focus on qualitative research sampling techniques based on Merton's 2010. We have extreme or deviant case sampling, homogeneous sampling, critical case sampling, theory-based or operational construct sampling, intensity sampling, typical case sampling, snowball or chain sampling, opportunistic sampling, maximum variation sampling, stratified purposeful sampling, criterion sampling, negative case sampling, sampling politically important cases, and mixed purposeful sampling. So let's discuss first extreme or deviant case sampling. The criterion for the selection of cases might be to choose individuals or sites that are unusual or special in some way. Study of extreme cases might yield information that would be relevant to improving more typical cases. For example, you are researching heart surgery patients who recover significantly faster to slower than average. Since there are unusual cases, you're looking for variation. In these cases, to explain why the recoveries were atypical. We also have intensity sampling. Intensity sampling is somewhat similar to the extreme case strategy, except there is less emphasis on the extreme. The researcher wants to identify sites or individuals in which the phenomenon of interest is strongly represented. For example, in evaluating teaching skills, an evaluator could sample and interview students in the top tier of a given class or school. These students would not be the best student of all, but rather the group of students who consistently scored well in tests. The third type of sampling is maximum variation sampling, also known as heterogeneous sampling. It is used to capture the wildest range of perspectives possible. To ensure maximum variation, researchers include both cases, organizations or events that are considered typical or average, and those that are more extreme in nature. For example, if you are doing a study on discrimination, you might select various ethnicities to share their experiences with discrimination. The fourth one is homogeneous sampling. In contrast to maximum variation sampling, homogeneous sampling involves the identification of cases or individuals that are strongly homogeneous. In using this strategy, the researcher seeks to describe the experiences of subgroups of people who share similar characteristics. For example, people in a homogeneous sample might share the same age, location, or employment. The fifth type is typical case sampling. Typical cases can be identified by recommendations of knowledgeable individuals or by review of extent demographic or programmatic data that suggests that this case is indeed average. For example, when you choose your sample from a middle-class suburb rather than from a poor or rich suburb, if you wish to do research on the spending habits of the city, the spending habits of the poor and the rich would probably not be typical for the community. Now let's move on to stratified purposeful sampling. It can be described as samples within samples and suggests that purposeful samples be stratified or nested by selecting units or cases that vary according to k dimensions, sex, locations, and etc. For example, one may purposefully sample primary care practices and stratify these purposeful samples by practice size like small, medium, and large, and practice setting like urban, suburban, and rural. After the stratified purposeful sampling, let's move on to the critical case sampling. It's a type of purposive sampling technique that is particularly useful in exploratory qualitative research, research with limited resources, as well as research where a single case or small number of cases can be decisive in explaining the phenomenon of interest. For example, let's say you want to investigate the impact of video games on teenagers. It would be difficult to select and investigate a sample of, say, 1,000 teenagers across the entire country. We can reduce the time and work by selecting a smaller geographical area within the country. Another type of sampling is the snowball sampling. It is used to help the researcher find out who has the information that is important to the study. The researcher starts with key informants who are viewed as knowledgeable about the program or community. For example, a researcher who is seeking to study leadership patterns could ask individuals to name others in their community who are more influential. Now let's move on to criterion sampling. Criterion sampling involves selecting cases that meet some predetermined criterion of importance. This is according to Patent 2001, page 238. The researchers must set up a criterion and then identify cases that meet that criterion. For example, every patient at a practice receives a satisfaction survey at the end of his or her visit. After the criterion sampling, we also have theory-based or operational construct sampling. If a researcher operationalizes the theoretical construct of anxiety in terms of social stress that create anxiety, sample selection might focus on individuals who theoretically should exemplify that construct. This might be a group of people who have recently become unemployed or homeless. Another type is opportunistic sampling. Opportunistic or emergent sampling occurs when the researchers make sampling decisions during the process of collecting data. This is commonly occurs in field research. One example would be standing on the street asking passersby to join the research. This is a quick and easy way to access a sample, so practically it is an advantage. Aside from opportunistic sampling, we also have negative case sampling. This is selecting cases that are expected to disconfirm the researcher's expectations and generalizations. For example, most respondents were happy about the latest development. However, a respondent was quiet and seemed reluctant to express her opinion. On noticing her, the researchers called her aside for a separate interview and got a contradicting viewpoint from her. We also have sampling politically important cases, a type of purposive sampling where the sampling method attracts or avoids attracting attention, undesired attention by including or eliminating specific sensitive samples. For example, a government is conducting a poll regarding the fear of terrorism in common people in particular region. The view of the people who have been under direct threat from terrorists or directly affected by a terrorist attack will be too strong and might bias the analysis. The last one is mixed purposeful sampling, the process of triangulation and combination of two or more methods of sampling to get more effective and more specific results. One best example is mixing sampling strategies such as opportunistic sampling or snowball or chains. So that's it for sampling and qualitative research. That would be all. Thank you.